Who's scruffy looking?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Talking with My Hans channel for part 3 of my trailer breakdown. We're not looking at any footage in this episode of the trailer breakdown. We're going over things that the trailer didn't show us or we are waiting to see from Star Wars Squadrons in the future. There are 3 main things that I think everybody was looking at and didn't get a lot of information from this trailer. First of all, the different modes, the customization, and then of course DLC. Let's start with some of the player modes and then we'll get on to the other 2 later. So as for different modes to play this game in, obviously we got the 2 revealed player modes for multiplayer, Dogfight and Fleet Battles, which are both really, really cool and I can't wait to play. But we didn't get any word on what kind of single player modes there are or if there's going to be any more multiplayer modes than just those 2. Fun fact, the last fighter game that I played on console was Hawks 2 for the PS3, and let me tell you, I bought that game for a discounted price, maybe $30, and I had a blast playing it. It had a really cool campaign, the fighter jets were really awesome, but what really stuck out to me was that it had these great single-player survival modes where different waves of fighters would come in and try and shoot you out of the sky, and on the ground there'd be surface-to-air missiles, and you'd have to dodge those, and you just last for as long as you could. It was a really cool way to get into the game and get some practice with different fighters and how they felt and what weapons they had. I hope that Star Wars Squadrons has something like that, where they send in waves of TIE fighters at you, maybe different kinds of TIEs, maybe big capital ships shoot missiles at you, and it allows you to get a good feel for all the different kinds of starships in the game. I would really love that. Also, they only revealed, like I just said, 2 multiplayer modes, Dogfight and Fleet Battles. Will there be more modes in this game than just those 2? Remember, it's a $40 game, so if there is just these 2 modes, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'd like to have maybe a couple other smaller ones, like maybe a capture the flag mode like in the old Battlefront games where you would go into the enemy capital ship, you would pick up the flag, and then bring it back to your capital ship. I think that'd be a really cool mode for this game. And of course, they didn't tell us which kind of maps or locations we're getting in this game. However, going through Wikipedia and going through the internet, I was able to decipher some of the places that we're going to see in this game. Sasebo was looked at briefly. It's the Imperial debris field that a lot of the old starships go and are decomposed. Then, of course, Gallatin and the Deary debris field. That is the main poster. That seems to be the main location of the game where the Starhawk project is taking place. Essel's is the Imperial listening post. That was also shown briefly in the trailer. And then at the end of the trailer, we got a little look at Yavin Prime and Yavin 4. Maybe they go back to that location. Maybe there's something there that they need. I can't wait to see Yavin again, but there's also a good chance that all of those locations show up in multiplayer maps as well for dogfight mode and for fleet battles. Alright, so now for the customization, which is something that's getting ever more popular in these kinds of games. Everybody wants to have as many customizable assets at their disposal as possible. Obviously, we got that look at that Ewok bobblehead that's super sick that you can put inside your ship. I would imagine that there are multiples of those. Then, of course, we got to look at a couple of the different skins that you can put on the TIE Fighter and or the New Republic starships. And then, of course, a different look at some of the aliens and humans and outfits you can have for your character. Now, those are 3 pretty cool things you can do to your ship, but will there be more customization modes coming in the future? Maybe a future DLC, maybe there's more that they didn't show us in the trailer. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. How much will we get? Because let me tell you, having a lot of customizable assets in this game is going to really make it or break it for me. I love having a lot of things myself. I love tinkering with the game myself. I want to have it as much of my own as possible. And again, how much are we going to get through DLC, which is what we're going to get into next. But I would imagine that through the DLC that's going to come out for this game eventually, I would hope that there's going to be more of those different assets. Okay, so now, of course, the big one, DLC. How much will we get? Will we get any at all? And what are we going to get in the DLC if it comes? Now, again, it's a $40 game. And it's also important to remember that new consoles are coming out at the end of the year. So if this game has a short lifespan and doesn't get the attention that you all think it's going to get, don't be surprised, because these big game companies are going to be moving on to projects that are going to make them more money for the future consoles that are probably also going to take up a lot more time. So the fact that this is going to be a short-run game will probably not surprise me at all. But if we do get DLC, if it's paid for or not, if there's a season pass or not, if there's a battle pass or not, I would imagine there are a couple very likely things that we'll get, and then something very unlikely that we'll get. So it is likely that we'll probably get new ships added to this game. I would put money on that if I was a betting man. Probably the TIE Defender, maybe the B-Wing, maybe some TIE Advanced variants like the Vader TIE Advanced and the Inquisitor TIE Advanced. And then I would also imagine that you'd probably, if you were going to go this route, look at some of the Legend ships, maybe some of the Uglies if you're into that sort of thing. So that is very likely to happen. And then, of course, with new ships, you could also add new classes to the game. I don't know what you could add class-wise for the TIE Advanced or the TIE Defender or the B-Wing. Obviously, they'd be very heavily shielded ships. They'd have a lot of firepower, so they'd obviously be very good. But those are two very likely things I think we can see from DLC. Also, I could also see them adding maybe a couple more game modes, maybe a different map or two, but obviously nothing to the size and scope of Battlefront, where most of the game is DLC. Now, it's very unlikely, and a lot of you are going to hate to hear this, but it's very unlikely that we'll get different eras of starships in this game. Again, it's $40. The lifespan of this game is probably not going to be very long because new consoles are coming out at the end of the year. So, in order to make a new, entirely different era for this game would be almost like doubling the game. So, obviously, we'd all love to see the Clone Wars era, maybe ARC 170s and V-Wings and droid tri-fighters and starships of that nature. That would be so cool. Maybe some Star Wars locations like Ryloth and Coruscant. However, I don't think it's going to happen in this one. And the same goes for the sequel era. I don't think we're going to get the T-70 X-Wing. I don't think we're going to get the Resistance Y-Wing or A-Wing or any of the First Order TIEs. I just don't see it as a likely scenario for this game with its lifespan that's kind of playing out before our eyes. I'm more than happy with just playing the New Republic versus the Empire. I am more than happy with that because this is already a dream game for me to slip on VR and get into a starship. And I'm not going to get greedy and try and say, oh, we need more, we need more, we need more. The Battlefront series, which did do that, is very unlike any other game. That game is mostly DLC. And it's a great game, don't get me wrong, but not every Star Wars game is going to be like that. Now, let me also say this. I do think DLC is likely. I think it's coming. I think it's almost inevitable that this game will have extra content at the end of its run. However, I don't think it's going to be a lot. But I do think we'll get some customizable assets in there. I think we'll get new ships, maybe new maps, and definitely new player modes added to Dogfight and Fleet Battles. Okay, everyone, thanks for tuning into all three parts of this series where we broke down the trailer and talked about what we expect from this game going forward. I would definitely expect more from this channel as Star Wars Squadron news keeps leaking out, so stay tuned for that. And of course, until next time, I'll see you guys later.